common question I've seen raised ever since the prospect of a 60th anniversary has existed in the minds of the fan base is which Doctors are going to be in it. In fact, this is something I've indulged in myself. Way back in the day I did a video talking about which Doctors I think are likely to return and which Doctors I think aren't. And this question has only intensified with the announcement that David Tennant and Catherine Tate will be returning for the show's 60th anniversary in some capacity. But we've recently had some news that would seemingly call into question the idea of there being any other Doctors in the 60th anniversary. And I want to delve into why that is, what that could mean, and what my thoughts are on it all. But before we get into it, if you could do me a teeny tiny little favour and click that subscribe button, I'd be ever so grateful. We are trying to get to 15,000 subscribers as quickly as possible, so if you could help us get there, that'd be ever so much appreciated. Also, go follow me on Twitter if you don't already, as I post my regular Doctor Who opinions over there. Let's get into the video. So stated before, it has been announced that Peter Capaldi is filming a new project with Apple TV in London, the name of which escapes me but I'll have on screen for you if you haven't seen. And this has pretty much confirmed that he's not going to be returning for the 60th anniversary. As we know, 60th filming is already underway, filming has already wrapped on Yasmin Finney's character Rose, so it's seeming increasingly less likely that he will be involved in the festivities. And I want to talk a bit about what this means for the prospect of a multi-Doctor story. Mainly, I don't think the 60th is going to be a multi-Doctor story, and I have multiple reasons for believing this. Number one is that there's been many credible leaks to suggest that Tennant is the only returning Doctor, so that on its own gives merit to the idea that there isn't going to be a multi-Doctor story, at least for the 60th anniversary. The second is the fact that I don't think many people realise how limited RTD is when it comes to his choices for bringing back Doctors for a multi-Doctor story. Eccleston, for obvious reasons, is a no. Capaldi, as we've mentioned, is working on a new project. Whittaker has just given birth, meaning that a large quantity of the new Who Doctors are out of the picture, with the only remaining one being Matt Smith. And while, as you all know, I love Matt Smith and really want him to come back, I can understand there being a concern of, well, we don't just want to do Day of the Doctor again. And while I don't think that should prevent Matt Smith from coming back, I understand that being a concern that someone might have raised. As for classic Who Doctors, the one who it makes most sense to bring back is McGann, given that he hasn't really aged since Day of the Doctor, and even then, in the expanded media, he has one of the longest lives of any Doctor, so I feel like as a result, you can kind of have him come back at any age, and it'd make perfect sense. The only problem with that, though, is that 8's timeline is kind of a mess. It has so many different companions due to all the Big Finish stuff, as well as being heavily steeped in the Time War. And I don't know whether RTD would want to start off a new period for him with the show, having to address a thing that he spent the vast majority of his previous era divulging in and talking about. Again, I don't think that should mean that Paul McGann is off limits for an appearance in the 60th anniversary, but again, I can understand why for those reasons it might be a bit harder to accommodate. Then you have the classic Doctors, who it's been heavily rumoured will appear in some capacity in the Centenary special, along with a multitude of classic Who companions. So if you were to do this again in the 60th anniversary, it might perhaps lead to the idea that this is becoming a repetitive pattern, rather than something fresh and new. Again, this is not me saying I'd be opposed to seeing any of them back, but I would again understand why RTD would want to separate his own specials from the Centenary. You also have, obviously, Joe Martin's Doctor, but again, for the same reason as McGann, I feel like Russell T Davies isn't going to want to deal with, okay, where does she come in the timeline? Because apparently that's not officially going to be wrapped up, so yeah. So again, I can understand why Ruth might not be brought back for what's supposed to be something that brings in the general audience back again. So, whether you want to admit it or not, Tennant is kind of the main viable one to bring back. He comes back for everything. RTD is the one who he worked with the most. He's the general public's favourite. He's gotten the tabloids on board. Bring on Catherine Tate, Bernard Cribbins as well, and you've got a surefire way of success, so I can understand why the approach is being taken. I think as much as fans construct these elaborate fan fictions of like every Doctor coming together and it being this massive, epic crossover, the reality is, people don't work like that. It's not as easy to just get everyone in a room and just say, right, let's get all the Doctors in a special. As much as we'd all love to see it, I can understand why in reality it's not as practical. As I said, 3 out of the 4 of like the main new Who Doctors are off limits for various different reasons, be them personal with the BBC, or doing other work, or pregnancy, or whatever. And you've also got the fact that at least 4 of the previous Doctor actors are no longer with us. And of course you can bring in someone like David Bradley, but I can also understand why someone would probably forego showing those classic Doctors for that reason. Tom Baker has also been given a through line due to him being the curator, but he is also getting on now, and I feel like it would be unfair to force him to do things at this age. So yeah, in the end, I think while a multi-Doctor story sounds great on paper and it sounds fun and like everything fans want, in reality I can understand it being a really difficult thing to construct. I'm not going to entirely rule out the possibility of a Smith cameo or of a McGann cameo, but I think the reality of it is probably going to be a Tennant-led story, and I think if we go into them thinking, oh, Smith's definitely coming back and McGann's coming back and all the rest of them, you're kind of setting yourself up for disappointment. And what RTD's already shown is admittedly really cool, and I think we'd be better off focusing on what is there rather than what isn't there. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you think a multi-Doctor story is still on the card? Do you think it'll just be Tennant along with obviously the whole Toymaker plot and whatever's going on there? Whatever your thoughts are, drop them down in the comments below. Like this video if you enjoyed, and I will see you later. Shout out to Debs Iona, Shane Smith, Ree Keffin, Seb Lowndes, Jay Monroe, Hash Shandycoot, Patrick Newson, Simon Ashley, Steve Safaro, Andrew Townsend, Alex Robbins, Michael Dykes, Paul Bryden, Sam Yates, Michael Rhodes, Jerry the Meerkat, Heretic, Cameron Jefferson, John M, Andrew Evanson, JM97, Gallifreyan Rob, Cliff's Random Silliness, Kyle McCroy, Nova Wolf Gaming, Carol Jude, Mr. KNL. If you want to become a member, feel free to do so. It really helps out. You get exclusive posts, shout outs in every video, and even your own badge and custom emojis to use.